Some stories begin with a whisper, others with a scream. This one began with a phone caller. Desperate, trembling voice on the other end of the line, and a mystery that would shake an entire community. It was a humid summer afternoon in the small town of Maple Ridge. The sun beat down on the cracked sidewalks, and the air buzzed with the sound of cicadas. Most families were inside, hiding from the heat. But in a modest house on the edge of town, a young boy named Tyler was curled up on the living room floor, clutching his stomach. Tyler was 10 years old, with sandy hair and a wild imagination. He loved superheroes, animals, and exploring the woods behind his house. But today, he was scared. Really scared. For the past hour, he'd felt something strange in his belly a-fluttering, then a sharp pain, and now, something that felt like kicking. He'd tried to tell his mom, but she was at work, and his older sister was glued to her phone in her room. As the pain grew worse, Tyler's fear turned to panic. He remembered what his mom had told him. If there's ever an emergency, call 911. His hands shook as he picked up the phone and dialed. 911, what's your emergency? Came the calm voice of the dispatcher. Tyler's voice was barely a whisper. I think something's wrong with me. There's something kicking in my belly. The dispatcher paused, then spoke gently. Sweetheart, can you tell me your name and address? Tyler Evans. 14. Maple Lane, please. It hurts. It's like something's moving inside me. The dispatcher's training kicked in. She asked about allergies, injuries, what Tyler had eaten, but nothing made sense. The boy's voice was full of terror, and the pain was getting worse. I'm sending help right now, Tyler. Stay on the line with me, okay? Across town, Officer Maria Lopez was finishing her shift at the police stables. She was the department's only mounted officer, and her partner, a sturdy bay horse named Ranger, was her pride and joy. Maria was known for her calm under pressure and her deep bond with animals. She was just about to head home when the call came in. Maria, we've got a strange one. 10-year-old boy, severe abdominal pain. Says something's kicking in his belly. Nearest patrol is you and K-9, Officer Grant. Can you respond? Maria didn't hesitate. On my way. She saddled up Ranger and radioed Officer Grant, who was already in his cruiser with his K-9 partner. Max, a German shepherd with a nose for trouble and a heart of gold. As Maria and Ranger trotted through the quiet streets, Grant and Max sped toward Maple Lane, sirens wailing. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains, wondering what could be wrong on such an ordinary day. At the Evans house, Tyler's sister, Emily, finally noticed the commotion. She ran downstairs, her face pale with worry. Tyler, what's going on? Tyler could barely speak. It hurts. Please, help me. Emily's hands shook as she opened the door to the officers. Maria dismounted, her boots hitting the pavement with a thud. Grant and Max rushed inside, the dog's nose twitching as he sniffed the air. Where's the boy? Grant asked, his voice gentle but urgent. Emily pointed to the living room. He's in there, he said. Something's kicking him. Maria knelt beside Tyler, her eyes full of concern. Hey, buddy! I'm Officer Lopez. We're here to help. Tyler looked up, tears streaming down his face. It hurts. Please, make it stop. Max, the K-9, sniffed Tyler's hands, then his stomach. The dog let out a low whine, his ears pinned back. Maria exchanged a worried glance with Grant. Something's not right, she whispered. Grant nodded. Let's get him checked out. I'll call for an ambulance. As the sirens wailed in the distance, Maria stroked Tyler's hair, her voice soothing. You're going to be okay, Tyler. We're right here. But as Max circled the boy, sniffing the air with growing urgency, Maria felt a chill run down her spine. The dog was trained to detect danger drugs, explosives, even illness. And right now, Max was acting like he'd found something big. Outside, Ranger pawed the ground, restless. Maria glanced at her horse, then back at the boy. What was happening inside Tyler's belly? And why was Max so agitated? As the ambulance pulled up, the officers prepared for the worst, unaware that what they were about to discover would shock them all and leave the entire town reeling. The ambulance crew rushed into the Evans living room, their faces a mask of calm professionalism. Paramedic Lisa knelt beside Tyler, her hands gentle as she checked his pulse and temperature. "Hey there, Tyler. I'm Lisa. Can you tell me where it hurts?" Tyler nodded, clutching his stomach. "It's right here. It feels like something's moving. It hurts so bad." Emily hovered nearby, her eyes wide with fear. "He's never been sick like this before. He was fine this morning. We had cereal and then he went outside to play." Officer Grant stood back, watching Max, his K-9 partner, circle the room. The dog's nose twitched as he sniffed Tyler's hands, then the couch, then the boy's stomach again. Max let out a low, uneasy whine, his body tense. Maria, the mounted officer, stood in the doorway, her eyes dotting between the paramedics and her horse, Ranger, who waited outside. She could feel the tension in the air, the sense that something was very wrong. Lisa looked up at the officers. "His abdomen is distended, and he's tender to the touch. We need to get him to the hospital. Fast." Grant nodded, but his attention was fixed on Max. The dog was now pawing at the floor near Tyler, whining louder. Maria knelt beside Max, stroking his fur. "What is it, boy? What are you trying to tell us?" Max barked, a sharp, urgent sound that made everyone jump. Lisa and her partner exchanged worried glances. "We need to move, now." As they loaded Tyler onto the stretcher, Emily grabbed Maria's arm. "Please, don't let anything happen to him." Maria squeezed her hand. "We'll do everything we can, I promise." The ambulance sped away, sirens blaring. Grant and Max followed in the cruiser, while Maria mounted Ranger and took a shortcut through the park, hoping to beat the traffic and clear the way for the ambulance. As they raced to the hospital, Maria's mind raced. She'd thought about her own little brother, about the times she'd been scared and needed someone to help. She glanced down at Ranger, who seemed to sense her worry, his ears flicking back as he galloped through the trees. At the hospital, doctors and nurses swarmed around Tyler, hooking him up to monitors and running tests. His mother, Sarah, arrived in a panic, her face pale as she rushed to her son's side. "What happened?" she cried, tears streaming down her face. Emily hugged her mother, sobbing. He said something was kicking in his belly. The officers and the dog, they helped. Sarah looked at Maria and Grant, her gratitude and fear mingling in her eyes. "Thank you for coming so fast." Grant nodded. Maxie knew something was wrong. He's trained to detect medical emergencies, but I've never seen him act like this inside Tyr. The doctors worked quickly. They ordered an ultrasound, searching for the cause of Tyler's pain. The screen flickered with images, and the technician's eyes widened. "There's something moving in there," she whispered. The doctor frowned, his voice tense. "Is it a blockage? A parasite?" The technician shook her head. "I don't know. I've never seen anything like it." Outside the exam room, Maria and Grant waited with Sarah and Emily. Max paced the hallway, his nose pressed to the door, whining softly. Suddenly, a nurse burst into the hallway. "We need to prep for surgery. Now." Sarah's knees buckled, and Maria caught her, guiding her to a chair. "He's strong," Maria whispered. "He's going to make it." As the surgical team rushed Tyler into the operating room, the family and officers could do nothing but wait. The minutes dragged by, each one heavier than the last. Grant knelt beside Max, his voice low. "You did good, buddy. You helped save him." Max licked Grant's hand, his eyes full of worry. Maria stepped outside to check on Ranger, who was still waiting patiently by the entrance. She stroked his mane, whispering, "We're all rooting for you, Tyler." Back inside, the tension was unbearable. Sarah paced the hallway. Emily cried quietly, and the officers tried to offer comfort. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the surgeon emerged, his face grave. "We found something unusual," he said. "We need to talk." The family and officers gathered around, their hearts pounding. What had they found inside Tyler's belly? And would he be okay? The answer would shock them all and change their lives forever. The surgeon's words hung in the air, heavy and ominous. Sarah clung to Emily, her knuckles white. Maria and Grant stood close. Max, sitting obediently at Grant's side, his eyes never leaving the family. The surgeon led them to a small consultation room, his face a mask of concern and confusion. "Tyler is stable for now," he began. "But what we found during surgery was extraordinary." Sarah's voice trembled. "Is he going to be okay?" The surgeon nodded. "He's a fighter, but what we removed from his abdomen wasn't a typical medical emergency. It was a living animal." The room fell silent. Emily's eyes widened. "An animal?" Inside him, the surgeon nodded, pulling up an image on his tablet. "It appears Tyler somehow ingested a fertilized snake. Egg likely from playing in the woods. The egg hatched inside his digestive tract. The movement you felt, Tyler, was a baby snake trying to get out." Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Maria and Grant exchanged stunned glances. Max let out a low, uneasy whine, as if he understood the gravity of the situation. The surgeon continued. "We were able to remove the snake safely. Tyler will need antibiotics and monitoring, but he should make a full recovery. It's a miracle the snake didn't cause more damage." Sarah burst into tears, relief and shock mingling in her sobs. Emily hugged her mother, her own tears falling freely. Maria knelt beside Max, stroking his fur. "You knew, didn't you, boy? You knew something was alive in there." Grant nodded, pride in his voice. "Max's training is incredible. He's detected seizures, low blood sugar, even cancer. But this is something else." The hospital staff marveled at the story. Nurses and doctors stopped by to check on Tyler, each one amazed by the bizarre and harrowing ordeal. The local news caught wind of the story, and soon reporters were calling, eager to share the tale of the boy, the snake, and the heroic K-9 and mounted officers. As Tyler awoke from surgery, his first words were, "Is it gone?" Sarah smiled through her tears. "It's gone, sweetheart. You're safe now." Tyler looked at Max, who had been allowed into the recovery room for a brief visit. "Thank you, Max. You're my hero." Max wagged his tail, nuzzling Tyler's hand. Maria and Grant stood by, their hearts full. Maria thought of all the times she'd doubted her career, wondered if she was making a difference. Today, she knew the answer. As the days passed, Tyler's story spread throughout Maple Ridge. The community rallied around the Evans family, bringing meals, cards, and gifts for Tyler and his brave rescuers. The local animal shelter sent a thank you note to Max, and the police department received dozens of letters praising the officers' quick thinking and compassion. But the story wasn't over. As Tyler recovered, the family and officers began to piece together how the snake egg had ended up inside him. Emily remembered Tyler playing in the woods, digging in the dirt, and pretending to be an explorer. He must have found the egg, thought it was a treasure, and like many curious children put it in his mouth. The doctors explained that while rare, such incidents could happen, especially in rural areas. They urged parents to teach their children about the dangers of wild animals and to seek medical help immediately if something seemed wrong. The Evans family was grateful for the support, but the experience left them shaken. Sarah vowed to be more vigilant, and Emily promised to keep a closer eye on her little brother. Maria and Grant, meanwhile, were hailed as heroes. The police chief commended their teamwork, and the mayor invited them to speak at a community safety event. Max and Ranger, the horse, became local celebrities, their photos appearing in newspapers and on social media. But for Maria and Grant, the real reward was knowing they had saved a life. They visited Tylo often, bringing Max and Ranger to cheer him up. Tyler loved telling his friends about the day a police dog and a horse helped save him from a snake inside his belly. As Tyler's strength returned, he asked Maria, "Can I ride Ranger someday?" Maria grinned. "As soon as you're better, you've got a deal." The bond between the officers, their animals, and the Evans family grew stronger with each visit. They shared laughter, tears, and a newfound appreciation for the miracles that could happen when people and animals worked together. But as Tyler's recovery continued, One question lingered in everyone's mind. What if Max hadn't been there? What if Maria and Grant hadn't responded so quickly? The answer was clear. Sometimes heroes come in the most unexpected forms: a loyal dog, a steadfast horse, and the people who refuse to give up, no matter how strange or frightening the emergency. And as the Evans family prepared to bring Tyler home, they knew their lives had been changed forever by a mystery, a miracle, and the courage of those who answered a little boy's call for help. The days after Tyler's surgery were a whirlwind of emotions for the Evans family. The hospital room was filled with flowers, balloons, and cards from classmates, neighbors, and even strangers who had heard about the incredible rescue. Tyler's story was on everyone's lips at the grocery store, in the school hallways, and even at the local diner, where people gathered to marvel at the bizarre and miraculous events. But for Sarah, Emily, and Tyler, the reality was more complicated. Tyler was still weak, his body recovering from the trauma of both the snake and the surgery. He had nightmares, waking in the middle of the night crying that something was moving inside him again. Sarah sat by his bed, holding his hand, whispering that he was safe, that the worst was over. Maria and Grant visited often, bringing Max and sometimes even Ranger, who waited outside for Tyler to pet his velvety nose. The bond between the officers and the Evans family deepened. Maria brought Tyler a police badge sticker and a photo of Ranger, while Grant let Tyler feed Max treats and taught him how to give the dog simple commands. One afternoon, as the sun streamed through the hospital window, the doctor came in with good news. Tyler's healing well. He's a tough kid. With a little more rest, he'll be able to go home soon. The relief in the room was palpable. Emily hugged her brother, and Sarah wept tears of gratitude. Maria and Grant exchanged a look of pride and joy, but the emotional climax came when the hospital organized a small ceremony to honor the officers and their animal partners. The staff, patients, and families gathered in the lobby, where Tyler sat in a wheelchair, Max at his side and Ranger just outside the glass doors. The police chief presented Maria and Grant with certificates of commendation. It is not every day that a K-9 and a mounted officer work together to save a life in such an extraordinary way, he said. Your quick thinking, teamwork, and compassion made all the difference. Tyler was given a special junior officer badge, which he wore proudly. They became advocates for children's health and safety, working with the hospital and police to spread awareness and support other families in crisis. Maria and Grant, meanwhile, were humbled by the outpouring of gratitude. They knew that their training and instincts had played a role, but they also recognized the power of trust, teamwork, and the unbreakable bond between people and their animal partners. As Tyler's health improved, Maria kept her promise. On a bright Saturday morning, she brought Ranger to the Evans house, and Tyler, beaming with excitement, climbed into the saddle with Maria's help. The neighbors gathered to watch as Tyler rode around the yard, his laughter ringing out, Max trotting alongside. It was a moment of pure joy, a reminder that even after the darkest storms, the sun can shine again. But as the Evans family celebrated Tyler's recovery, they knew they would never forget the fear, the uncertainty, and the miracle that had brought them all together. And as Maria, Grant, Max, and Ranger rode off into the afternoon, the town of Maple Ridge was left forever changed by a little boy's courage, a family's love, and the heroes who answered a call for help. The weeks after Tyler's return home were filled with gratitude, reflection, and a new sense of community. The Evans family was overwhelmed by the kindness of neighbors, friends, and even strangers who had followed Tyler's story. Meals arrived at their door. Cards and drawings from classmates covered the refrigerator. And the local animal shelter sent a special thank you basket for Max and Ranger. Tyler's recovery was steady. The nightmares faded, replaced by dreams of adventure, this time with Max and Ranger by his side. He became more cautious, but also more curious, asking questions about nature, animals, and how to stay safe. Emily, once annoyed by her little brother's antics, became his fiercest protector, always keeping an eye out when they played outside. Sarah, too, was changed. She realized how quickly life could turn and how important it was to listen to her children, to trust her instincts, and to never take a single day for granted. She joined the hospital's new parent advisory board, sharing her story and helping other families prepare for emergencies. Maria and Grant continued their work as officers, but now they were local celebrities. They visited schools, libraries, and community events, sharing the story of Tyler's rescue and teaching children about the importance of calling for help, trusting their instincts, and respecting animals. Max and Ranger became beloved mascots, their photos hanging in the police station and the town hall. The police department, inspired by the events, started a new program pairing K-9 and mounted officers for community outreach. The program brought people together, breaking down barriers and building trust between law enforcement and the families they served. One sunny afternoon, the town held a celebration in the park to honor Tyler, his family, and the officers. The mayor gave a heartfelt speech, praising the courage of a little boy who called for help, the quick thinking of the officers, and the loyalty of Max and Ranger. Tyler received a medal, and Maria and Grant were given plaques, recognizing their service. But the most touching moment came when Tyler, standing on the small stage with Max and Ranger at his side, spoke to the crowd. "I was really scared, but I called 911 because my mom always told me to ask for help if I needed it. I want to thank Officer Maria, Officer Grant, Max, and Ranger for saving me. And I want everyone to know that it's okay to be scared, but you should never be afraid to ask for help." The crowd erupted in applause, some people wiping away tears. Sarah hugged her son, her heart full of pride and relief. As the sun set over Maple Ridge, the Evans family sat together on their porch, watching Max and Ranger play in the yard. Emily leaned against her mother, and Tyler rested his head on Sarah's shoulder. "Do you think I'll ever have another adventure like that?" Tyler asked, a mischievous twinkle in his eye. Sarah laughed, ruffling his hair. "I hope not, sweetheart. But if you do, we'll face it together." Maria and Grant stopped by, bringing Max and Ranger for one last visit before their shift. They sat with the family, sharing stories and laughter, the bond between them stronger than ever. As darkness fell, Tyler looked up at the stars, feeling safe, loved, and grateful. He knew that life could be scary and unpredictable, but he also knew that heroes came in all shapes and sizes, sometimes with a badge, sometimes with 4 legs, and sometimes with nothing more than a kind heart and a courage to make a call. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, when you're scared or in trouble, never be afraid to ask for help. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is reach out hand. Sometimes the answer comes galloping or trotting right to your door. Because in the end, it's not just about being rescued. It's about the love, courage, and community that carry us through the darkest moments and into the light.